Hey everyone, welcome to a deep dive into a really cool field.
Cool in more ways than one.
That's right, because we're talking about glass blowing today and how to prepare for a job interview for this amazing career.
Absolutely. And to help us out today, we'll be looking at RoleCatcher's guides,
Yeah, they have some great resources.
like the Glassblower Career Guide with tons of insights into the industry and the different paths you can take.
And the interview guide.
Yeah, that one's packed with sample questions that can really help you understand what interviewers are looking for.
They even have AI that can tailor your answers and give you feedback.
Specifically for glass-blowing roles.
That's awesome. So let's just jump right into those sample questions.
Sounds good.
The second one in the interview guide really stood out to me.
Which one was that?
How do you ensure the safety of yourself and others while glass blowing?
Yeah, that's a big one. It's not just about knowing the rules, it's about showing that you're proactive about safety.
Because let's face it, you're working with molten glass.
Exactly. It's a potentially hazardous environment, and interviewers need to know you take that seriously.
So how can we make sure our answers really showcase that safety mindset?
Well, first off, you gotta mention the basics, like wearing heat-resistant gloves.
And goggles.
Of course, but you gotta go beyond that.
What else can you highlight?
Well, instead of just saying, I'm always careful, you could give a specific example.
Like what?
You could say something like, before I even start, I always make sure my workspace is clear of any obstacles.
Oh, that's smart.
Yeah, no tripping hazards, and you want to double check the placement of tools and materials.
So everything's exactly where it needs to be.
Right, and you could also mention the importance of clear communication in the studio.
Especially when you're working in close proximity to others.
Exactly, because a little bump could be disastrous.
It really paints a picture of your awareness.
And it shows you're thinking about everyone's safety, not just your own.
It's those kinds of details that really make a difference.
And you know what else can help with those details?
What's that?
RoleCatcher's AI.
Oh, right, I almost forgot.
It can give you feedback and make sure your answers are really hitting the mark.
Okay, so we've talked about safety now. Let's move on to question number 3.
Okay, what does that one say?
How do you go about creating a glass piece from start to finish?
This is your chance to shine.
It's not just about steps, it's about your understanding of the craft.
Absolutely. Think of it as a mini masterclass for the interviewer.
Okay, I like that. So where do we start?
Well, first you got to gather the molten glass on your blowpipe.
Or punty.
Right. Then you start shaping it using different tools and techniques.
And don't forget about adding color.
Yeah, you can do that with frit or colored canes. It's like little pieces of colored glass.
Oh, cool.
And then there's the annealing process, which is super important.
Right.
That's where you slowly cool the glass to strengthen it.
Oh, I see.
But remember, don't just list the steps.
Use descriptive language.
Make them see the process.
Like that glowing molten glass transforming in your hands.
Exactly. Bring it to life.
Are there any terms or techniques that would really wow an interviewer?
Oh, for sure. You could mention things like marvering.
Marvering.
That's where you roll the hot glass on a flat surface to shape it.
Oh, interesting. Or what about cane pulling?
Yes, cane pulling is another great one. That's where you create intricate designs.
Sounds complicated.
It is. You stretch and layer colored glass rods to make really cool patterns.
I can imagine that takes a lot of skill.
It does, but if you can explain it well, it shows you really know your stuff.
But remember,
What's that?
don't assume everyone knows these terms.
Right, you got to keep it clear and concise.
That's where RoleCatcher's AI can be really helpful.
Totally. It can make sure you're striking that perfect balance.
Between showcasing your expertise.
And making sure everyone's following along.
Okay, so safety and process are covered. Now let's move on to question number 4.
Okay, what's next?
Have you ever encountered a problem during the glass blowing process? How did you resolve it?
Oh, I like this one. Everyone's had a mishap in the studio at some point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's all about how you handle those unexpected challenges.
Because things don't always go according to plan.
Especially when you're working with molten glass.
So think about a time when things got a little heated.
Literally.
Maybe the glass cracked unexpectedly or a color didn't mix, right?
It happens.
Now, what did you do?
Now, I know it's tempting to say you've never had a problem.
But honesty is key.
Interviewers want to see that you can think on your feet.
And that you can problem solve.
So walk them through the process.
How did you assess the situation? What options did you consider? And most importantly, what actions did you take?
Did you adjust your technique or ask for help?
These are the things that really matter.
It shows you're resourceful and that you can work independently or as part of a team.
Exactly. Those soft skills are just as important as the technical ones.
And guess what?
What's that?
RoleCatcher's AI can help you pinpoint those soft skills.
Oh, yeah. It's like having a career counselor who knows exactly what employers are looking for.
Okay, so we've talked about handling problems now. Let's shift gears to staying up to date.
With all the latest trends and techniques.
Exactly, because the world of glass art is constantly evolving.
So question number 5 asks, how do you stay up to date with new glass-blowing techniques and trends?
And this is where you show that you're passionate and eager to learn.
Right. It's not just about mastering the basics.
It's about continuous improvement.
So go beyond the obvious.
Like reading books and watching videos.
Yeah, mention workshops or conferences you've attended.
Or organizations you're a part of.
Like the Glass Arts Society.
That's a great example.
It shows you're actively engaged in the community.
And don't just name drop.
Share a specific technique or trend that you recently learned about.
Something you're excited about?
It could be from a recent workshop or even something you read in the Technology Advances section of the Career Guide.
That shows you've done your homework.
And that you're passionate about staying ahead of the curve.
It's that proactive mindset that really makes you stand out.
Exactly. It shows you're not just there for a job.
You're there to contribute.
And to grow as an artist.
Now, before we move on, I want to circle back to something we mentioned earlier.
What's that?
RoleCatcher's AI can be a game changer when it comes to showcasing your experience.
Oh, definitely. It's especially for questions 1 and 6 in the interview guide.
You mean the ones about your overall experience in a challenging project?
Yep. Those are your opportunities to really paint a picture of your skills and accomplishments.
And RoleCatcher's AI can help you do that in a way that resonates with employers.
It's like having a personal PR agent who knows exactly how to highlight your best qualities.
Okay, so how does it specifically help with those questions?
For question 1, it helps you create a concise but impactful overview of your experience.
Making sure you hit all the key points.
Without rambling on.
And for question 6, where you're discussing a challenging project.
It can guide you to choose the most relevant example.
And structure your answer to emphasize those key skills.
Like problem-solving, adaptability, and teamwork.
So it's about turning those challenges into compelling stories.
That showcase your growth and resilience.
It's like turning your resume into a captivating narrative.
Exactly.
Yes.
You're not just listing facts, you're telling a story.
And RoleCatcher's AI can help you tell that story in a way that really grabs attention.
It makes you memorable.
That's what we all want, right?
To make a lasting impression.
Absolutely. So remember, even if you're nervous,
take a deep breath.
And let your passion shine through.
Because at the end of the day,
that's what really matters.
Your love for glass blowing.
And your dedication to the craft.
Those are the things that will truly impress any interviewer.
And set you apart from the competition.
So go out there and blow them away.
Pun intended.
Of course.
Well, folks, we've covered some great ground here in part 1, but there's so much more to explore. We'll be right back with part 2 after a quick break. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the world of glass blowing.
And acing that job interview.
Before the break, we were talking about using RoleCatcher's AI to really showcase your experience.
But now I want to focus on those tricky behavioral questions.
Ah, yes, the ones that make you think, how am I supposed to answer that?
Like, tell me about a time you failed. Or, how do you handle conflict?
Those can be tough.
But RoleCatcher's interview guide has some great advice.
It gives you insights into what interviewers are looking for and even offers sample answers.
It's like having a cheat sheet.
But remember, it's not about memorizing answers.
It's about using them as a guide.
And being authentic.
Right? Share real experiences that highlight your strengths and even some weaknesses.
Exactly. Don't be afraid to be vulnerable.
It shows you're self-aware and that you can learn from your mistakes.
Like, instead of saying, I'm a perfectionist,
which can sound kind of cliche,
you could talk about a time when you strived for perfection.
But had to adapt to meet a deadline.
Exactly. It's about turning those potential weaknesses into strengths.
By showing you can problem solve and be flexible.
Now, let's talk about something that's really important in any creative field.
Passion.
Exactly. Yeah. You can have all the technical skills in the world.
But if you don't love glass blowing, it won't shine through.
Imagine you're in the interview talking about manipulating molten glass, transforming it into something beautiful.
You have to let that enthusiasm come out.
In your answers, your body language, even your tone of voice.
Because that passion is contagious.
It shows you're not just there for a paycheck.
You're there because you truly care about the craft.
And don't forget to ask questions yourself.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
It shows you're engaged and curious.
What kind of questions should we be asking?
You could ask about the studio's work, their team dynamics,
the types of projects they're working on.
Even their approach to safety and training.
It's about gathering information and seeing if this is the right fit for you.
Because remember, an interview is a two-way street.
Okay, so we've talked about answering questions and asking questions.
Now let's talk about closing the interview strong.
That last impression is important.
Reiterate your key strengths, express your interest in the position.
And thank them for their time.
A simple, "Thank you for considering me for this opportunity," goes a long way.
And if it feels appropriate, you can even bring up that unique glass piece we discussed earlier.
Ah, yes, the one that represents your skills and experiences.
It's a subtle way to tie everything back together.
And leave them with a memorable image of your talent.
Now, this might sound old-fashioned,
What's that?
but don't underestimate the power of a thank you note.
I agree. A personalized email or even a handwritten note can make a big difference.
It shows you're thoughtful and professional.
And guess what? RoleCatcher's AI can even help you craft the perfect thank you note.
Wow, it's like having a career assistant in your pocket.
Okay, now let's shift gears to something else important.
Your portfolio.
Ah, yes, the visual representation of your skills and creativity.
RoleCatcher's Career Guide really emphasizes this.
Whether it's a website, social media, or even physical pieces you can bring along.
It's a chance for employers to see your work come to life.
And it doesn't just have to be finished pieces.
You can include photos of your process sketches of your designs.
Anything that demonstrates your range and artistic vision.
But remember to tailor it to the specific job you're applying for.
If it's scientific glassblowing, highlight those lab pieces.
If it's more artistic, showcase your sculptures or decorative work.
And guess what?
RoleCatcher's AI can help here too.
It can analyze your portfolio and suggest improvements based on the job you're targeting.
So it's like having a personal curator.
Helping you present your work in the most impactful way.
Okay, so we've talked about portfolios now. Let's circle back to something we touched on earlier.
What's that?
Continuous learning.
Ah, yes. Even if you land this job, the learning doesn't stop there.
The world of glass art is always evolving.
And staying up to date is crucial.
The Career Guide mentions attending workshops and conferences,
Joining professional organizations.
like the American Scientific Glassblowers Society.
Or the International Society of Glass Beadmakers.
And don't forget about online resources.
There are tons of tutorials, articles, and virtual communities.
It's like having a global network of mentors at your fingertips.
So no matter where you are in your glassblowing journey,
Always be open to learning and expanding your skills.
because the more you learn,
The more your creativity can shine.
and that's what makes this craft so rewarding.
It's a constant journey of discovery and innovation.
So embrace the challenge.
And never stop learning. And we're back for the final part of our glass-blowing deep dive.
We've covered a lot of ground so far.
From safety tips and energy strategies to showcasing your passion and building your portfolio.
But before we wrap up,
We want to give you some valuable resources to continue your journey,
it's like handing you a toolkit.
filled with everything you need to succeed in the world of glassblowing.
So where can aspiring or even seasoned glassblowers go to connect, learn, and find opportunities?
Well, RoleCatcher's Career Guide points us to some incredible organizations.
For those interested in scientific glassblowing, the American Scientific Glassblower Society is a goldmine.
They offer workshops, conferences, a wealth of knowledge.
It's a fantastic way to connect with fellow scientific glassblowers and stay updated on advancements.
And for the bead enthusiasts out there,
The International Society of Glass Beadmakers is the place to be.
they have a vibrant community, online resources, and events where you can learn from master bead makers.
What's so cool is how these organizations really highlight the versatility of glassblowing.
You'll find artists creating stunning sculptures alongside those who design intricate lab equipment.
It's a reminder that glassblowing is both an art and a science.
Speaking of versatility, let's talk about career paths.
The possibilities extend far beyond what many people might imagine.
We've mentioned stained glass and scientific glass blowing,
But there's also architectural glass,
where you might create large-scale installations for buildings.
adding a unique artistic dimension to architectural design,
And then there's restoration.
breathing new life into old, damaged glass pieces.
This path requires incredible skill and a deep understanding of historical techniques.
It's a truly specialized field.
And of course, there's always the entrepreneurial route.
Setting up your own studio, creating custom pieces for clients teaching workshops.
You can even combine multiple paths to create a career that truly reflects your passions,
RoleCatcher's Career Guide does a great job of breaking down these different paths.
giving you a glimpse into typical tasks, salary expectations, and even the pros and cons of each specialization.
It's a valuable resource for anyone looking to navigate the diverse landscape of glass-blowing careers.
Now, before we conclude our deep dive, I want to emphasize one crucial point.
Safety.
Absolutely. Working with molten glass inherently carries risks.
So those heat-resistant gloves and goggles are non-negotiable.
But it goes beyond just protective gear.
You need to be aware of your surroundings, ensure proper ventilation,
Communicate clearly with others in the studio.
and always maintain a deep respect for the materials and equipment you're working with.
Safety is not just a rule,
It's a mindset.
and it's essential for a successful and fulfilling career in glass blowing.
Well, we've reached the end of our deep dive.
We've explored the artistry, the science, the career paths, and the essential skills needed to thrive in this captivating world,
I hope you found it informative and inspiring.
and maybe even sparked a desire to explore this incredible craft further.
Remember, resources like RoleCatcher can be invaluable guides.
Whether you're prepping for an interview, seeking new skills, or simply fascinated by the magic of molten glass,
Keep that furnace burning bright
embrace the heat.
and let your creativity flow.
Until next time on The Deep Dive.